We've got a new face over here. Tell us your name.
I'm Kane.
Kane, at the moment we're talking about Jeremy Corbyn. Is there a growth in anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, in society in general? Is it something that needs to be addressed? Is it a smear, as Johnny says, but it's something behind it? This is what, is it not relevant, as Asher says?
Sorry to interrupt you, but see with that question, if everyone's up for it, can we go around and see what people voted for?
Okay, we'll do that in a second. Let's just bring Kane. I just want to bring Kane in there, but we will do that. We'll do that. Kane, have you got any views on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, like racism probably exists at the fringes.
We've been talking a lot about racism tonight, actually.
But I'd say that exists at the fringes of every political party. I think you have it on the far left as much as you have it on the far right. I think the issue on both sides is when politics becomes more polarised, so when you move away from the centre, is those voices become more folded in, they're sort of more present.
Insular, yeah.
And so, I mean, I think I think you're going to have that sort of those issues in both parties. I just think that the issue on both sides is just probably not handling it very well.
Okay, so it's about how it's dealt with rather than the thing itself.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I mean, just, I'm Jewish, and I think, and I also don't hugely believe in the state of Israel. But I can see that how the Jewish Chronicles picked it up and how the Jewish labour movements picked it up, it's just not been, I would just say it's not been sort of handled and dealt with particularly very well. And I can see that talking to my parents, is that, my mum, it was effectively like I would never vote Labour because of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shalom.
Okay, so just before I go to you, Billy, Emmett, you wanted to say something and reply to this whole...
Well, the original thing was this idea of this historian speaking to the Jewish community. Now, I think by the Jewish community, it probably meant things like JLM, like the JLC, like the Board of Deputies, like the JC. Now, these organisations all started war, not when Jeremy Corbyn became leader, but when Ed Miliband was a leader, because Ed Miliband said that he would recognise Palestine. And at the time, the whole Israeli thing was all about combating BDS. And it was very difficult to combat, because BDS was a boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign. It was what was used against apartheid in South Africa, and it was also going to be used against what people consider an apartheid regime committing ethnic cleansing in the occupied territories. Now, this happened when Ed Miliband was leader. Ed Miliband was Jewish, and so Stephen Pollard, who was a very right-wing Tory, been editor of the Jewish Chronicle for a long time, he basically started war against the Labour Party then. And the thing was, the chief of staff to the Prime Minister of Israel was a guy called Mark Regev. And he helped to coordinate quite a few things. There was a programme on BBC a little while ago about George Soros and the George Soros conspiracy theories, because the Rothschild conspiracy theories have been around for at least 100 years, if not more, same sort of time as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, that kind of thing. But really, the anti-Semites had run out of any fresh stuff. They were really running dry. And then the thing was, George Soros, he was a Hungarian guy. He grew up under the Nazi occupation and then left there after the Soviet invasion, came to London. London gave him a refuge. He studied at the LSE under Karl Popper. And Karl Popper had this idea of the open society and its enemies. So he wasn't in favour of authoritarian societies. And George Soros made loads of money from his financial stuff, and he's basically devoted his life to trying to create this open society. So when the Berlin Wall came down, when Eastern Europe opened up, he started funding all these universities. He realized these countries that didn't have any free trade unions, so he started funding trade unions. He didn't want to have one-party states, so he was funding opposition movements. And mostly he was doing it in Eastern Europe, because that was where he was from, and that was where there was obviously a big vacuum. But he started to do it in Israel as well. He was funding funding Palestinian groups, he was funding opposition groups, and the Likud party wasn't very keen on this. And so the first time he became prime minister in '96, Netanyahu had this American pollster called Arthur Finkelstein, who was a brilliant guy. He basically got in every one of the massive right-wing arseholes in America for 40 years. Nixon, Ronald Reagan, all of them. He was like the pollster guy, but manipulating their image behind all of them. Anyway, he did the same thing for Netanyahu, and then again he did it in 2001 for Ariel Sharon. He masterminded the whole thing, going up the Mount of Olives, started the whole second intifada and stuff. But anyway, Mark Regev was there, his guy, his fixer, organising it all for Netanyahu, and he made sure that when we needed a new chief rabbi, because Jonathan Sachs was retiring, that it was someone who was basically from apartheid South Africa, had been trained up in Israel, and was really solidly committed to that Likud viewpoint. He made sure that all of those positions got filled, so that they were all campaigning against Ed Miliband. And then, of course, when Ed Miliband left, they were hoping he was going to be replaced by a safe pair of hands. So we had this bipartisan thing in both the UK and US, where all the big parties that ever would be formed a government would support Israel, whatever it did. And Ed Miliband changed that. And then, of course, Jeremy Corbyn as well. He wasn't going to support Israel if it wasn't behaving in a decent way. He's going to judge it by exactly the same standards that every other country in the world would be judged by. And Israel is not used to that, you know. They're really not used to it. And but this thing about this historian, you're back at the table now, speaking to the Jewish community, did he speak... His whole adult life, Jeremy Corbyn has been surrounded by Jewish people, whether people like Michael Rosen, David Rosenberg, Miliband, he was a great friend of Ralph Miliband. Most of the most important people in his life have always been Jewish. And he's always stood up for the Jewish community. So if you look at the Hasidic Jews in Stamford Hill, they love him. No, they're not fans of Israel, but they really support him hugely because he's always supported them. When there was a Jewish graveyard that was going to be destroyed by Islington Council, when Margaret Hodge was the leader going to destroy this Jewish graveyard, Jeremy Corbyn was the one who led the campaign to save it. And that's why she's had it in for him for all this time.
Okay. I think we got the point. Well, you got 3 claps from Margot. You wanted to say something? I come to you after.
Yeah, wasn't it originally to do with racism or something like that?
Well, we're talking about racism, and I guess this all fits in.
There's only one thing I can say to racism. Yeah, it's all to do with us. Around this table, everything like that. Yeah. Right, if you're brought up in your family, like what I said earlier, my old man, they're old school. They'd call the black bloke, coloured bloke, stuff like that. I'd say that to one of my best friends, he won't like it. But
I mean, I think Emmett was saying that if you know black people, then you know what to.
All right, fair enough. I get that.
And the fact
but still, racism should not be an issue in this country. Like it shouldn't be. Like this day and age, how? Yeah. We're in the 21st century.
Okay, and why is racism still an issue?
Because people...
Because people keep themselves in their groups, keep themselves to themselves and don't want to get out there, learn other cultures, stuff like that. I was brought up in Bethnal Green, like Tower Hamlets. Like half of my friends were Bangladeshi boys. They'll come up to me and go, my name's Billy. They'll go, beer hasini. And I always remember that, and that means, can I have a cigarette, please, Billy? And I always remember it, and it's just like, you got to mix with your surroundings. It's just...
Let me come to Asha.
1 month old boy, he was 8 years old. Instead, he won't be January now. When I used to take the 4 hack instead, it was park. When I take him there, a lot of the white boys say to me, go home, go home. Right. My son is born here.
Yeah. So you think racism is still an issue?
Listen, I take him home and I say to me, Mom, what is home? And I explain him to say, your mom and dad, they come from there, but you born here. Then my son started it. Every child he see him saying, go home, go home. And I tell him, why you say that? You didn't like what the other boys tell you. And he said, I'm saying it before they say it to me. Right. But I explain him, my son say to him, you born here, you English, but your mom and your dad come from Somalia.
Yeah.
But when he just aggressed to me, say to him, every child, he said, if they not ever say to him, go home, he's saying, go home, go home. I say,
do you think the same thing will happen with your children's children? Will they still be saying this, or do you think it will be?
It be. Listen, I'm the person. I am come from Somalia. I don't hang around my people. I don't hang around black people. I hang around most of my friends white. But I like my people. I like anybody. I'm not against anybody color. I don't see the color.
Yeah.
But it's the people put you in your hair. But if you sit your child or explain him what it is the racist color is, my son up to now he don't understand it. He think he's white. I say you're not white. Right. You're born in England, but where you come from and your blood is not white. Yeah. But I'm not see him as a racist with him. Yeah. I explain him. Yeah. But if anybody got one day young and you put the racist people, they come from more than their home, where the other their mom and dad and family say.
Okay, so it's a bit like what Billy's saying.
Yeah, he say this is this that, but we can educate them.
Okay, so education can overcome it. Mixing with people, talking about racism.
Quick question, it's 10 o'clock, bang on, and we're still watching Kate Winslet rediscovering her fucking roots.
Yeah, what
is that?
on?
What is that about?
We need someone look at this thing and...
Sky has John Burko, if we want Sky.
We want the exit polls.
Yeah.
Is it on?
But I don't know, is the stream...
Oh, is the stream running a bit late or something? Just hit Apple R, Kane, hit Apple R.
I don't touch it, bang on.
Okay, anyway, so we're talking about racism. We're talking. Okay, we're 5 minutes behind this. Is it time to go live? Oh, there's our favourite political editor. Okay, the exit poll. Okay, put the sound on. How do we put the sound on, Gary? We need to. We put the fucking sound on. Okay, we're going to get the exit poll now. So. No, this is just the beginning. We're just finding out. Yeah. Right, let's see. This is the big kahuna. We're going to find out.
We are standing by with those crucial exit poll figures. Here they are.
Gonna be a blue line and
Let's see what happens. Oh my God!
A conservative majority when all the votes are counted after this election of December 2019. The Conservatives on 368 seats and Labour way down on 191. Now, on those figures, we are looking at a Conservative majority of 86 if the votes actually tally up with this prediction, and that will be the biggest Conservative majority since Margaret Thatcher's third victory back in 1987. Let's look at that Labour figure, 191 for Jeremy Corbyn. That would be the worst Labour result in modern times, and certainly worse than the figure obtained by Michael Foot back in 1983, a low point for Labour. Let's look at the wider picture. Figures for all the parties. The Conservatives, we are suggesting on 368, that is a rise of 50 seats in this election, as suggested by the exit poll. Labour on 190.
Yeah.
What's your one? Yes.
That's the suggestion of the poll. And the SNP on 55, making some 20 gains. The Liberals on 13, just 1 seat. Plaid Cymru on 3, losing a seat. The Greens on 1, no change. The Brexit Party not winning any seats according to this exit poll, and the others, most of those in Northern Ireland, making up 19. It is an exit poll. We will see how accurate it is, of course, when the results start coming in. and we may even get some results within some 45 minutes or so. But it is a dramatic scene, and it certainly suggests that Boris Johnson is on course for a very solid majority of at least 80 seats, possibly 86. Let's get Laura Ginsburg's reaction to this.
Well, we have all just lived through some of the most turbulent times any of us can remember.
Okay, can we kill Laura Ginsburg?
Until the results come in, there won't be anything else. There won't be anything.
Yeah. So no, we still want the feed. Just turn the volume down. That's all we want. Okay. Yeah. That's a bit further down than that. I think we don't. Okay. So what do people think about that? Anyone?
Can I make I just want to say, I just saw a comment that I live in Hornsey Moor Green, which I think last time had a 30,000 majority, and someone was exit poll there. Now, if they want to be representative of the whole country, they should do exit polls at all sorts of seats. But that doesn't really matter how many votes Labour got there, because Labour's going to save that seat. It's going to keep it anyway. So Labour's got 500,000 members. I don't know how many of them were out campaigning, but the ones who were campaigning in marginals. They weren't campaigning in the safe seats. So if you really want to know about how many seats have been won, you should only really have done the exit poll and the marginals, because the Tories are mostly relying on the media, which obviously helps them pile up the seats and the votes in the safe seats. But it doesn't necessarily help them win the marginals.
Okay,
Labour's had people.
You're saying the exit poll is wrong.
Well, I'm saying it's right about the percentages, but it might be wrong about the number of seats, because people have been out knocking on doors in Uxbridge. Boris Johnson himself may have lost his seat in Chingford and Woodford Green. It could be at the end of the night that Boris Johnson and Swinson are not MPs anymore.
I mean, was the exit?
Different light right now, but can I say one thing I think's wrong, and it's someone that don't vote because they don't have a clue properly about it. But if I walked in to the polling station, me and my missus, together to vote, we're not allowed to. You have to go one at a time. But someone that don't speak the language or something like that, no racism, nothing against it or nothing like that, they have to go in there with their partner or something like that. Thing.
Well, there's a lot of skullduggery happen at this poll station. Yeah, a lot of corruption.
You know what I mean.
I'm with you, that's bullshit. You should just be able to see what the list is going to be before you get there.
Okay.
You should be able to go in with, if you've got 6 people in your family, go in there in your family.
Okay, so you should be able to go in with your family. Okay. You can go in.
You just can't, no other person can do that for you unless you're blind.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So if you're a family, shouldn't you be able to vote as a family and what you agree on? I'm not saying you're always going to have the same light.
Okay.
My kids both voted differently. So
did they?
Yeah. So there's no reason why they should.
Okay, but we just had the exit poll. We've heard a response from Emmett. We've heard a response from Billy. Any other thoughts about it? The Brexit poll. Is it the Brexit poll or the exit poll?
I mean, I do believe that the Brexit poll, the exit, that it is fairly independent. It's Ipsos Mori. It's fairly independent. It surveys about 120,000 people, but it's against across a range of constituencies. I think this year they're breaking down the exit poll by constituency, which I think is the first time ever.
What you mean they're doing every single constituency?
Yeah, I believe that they're doing it to that granular level online.
Okay, well that's another.
We heard that last August.
Okay, I mean, well that's another subject, but let's just get some responses, Billy. Let's just get some responses to the exit poll, and then we'll talk about the Brexit poll. Gary, have you got any response to this exit poll?
No, I just wanted to say something about maybe other countries leaving, because I'm applying for my Italian residency.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know, but the Italian word for exit is uscita. So it would be uscitali.
Okay, so the Italian version of Brexit will be uscitali. Anyway, but we've just seen the exit poll. Let's just get some responses for this exit poll. Did you want to say something, or are you just pointing at your beer?
As a poll,
yeah.
I would like to make a point. I hope it turns.
So in a way, the sort of Polish for Brexit would be exit poll.
But they're saying there's going to be poll exit.
Poll
exit.
Polexit.
I think Poland is really not into the European Union, so.
Yeah. So maybe we would get exit poll. Any responses this side?
Well, it's disappointing, obviously.
Yeah.
But I still think it should be taken with a pinch of salt, because the last an exit poll for 2017 predicted a majority, and then it was a hung parliament.
Okay. What majority did it predict? A Tory majority?
Yeah.
Okay. Any views?
Well, I'm with Sandor. Yeah, I'm with Sandor as well. And in the very worst case scenario, the best case version of it I can think of is maybe it encourages a lot of people to get more involved in politics. A more extreme result of that kind, as terrible as it is, maybe it has a small
will this mobilise people? Okay, anything on this side? You're checking your phones?
We're just seeing how the currency is changing.
Are you seeing it? Has it had an effect on the currency?
Yeah, it has. It's gone from euro at least. It was 118 earlier today. It's 120 now.
Okay. So you're buying more euros?
Well, I'm going on holiday anyway, so I'll be buying euros this week. So just before it all gets fucked up later.
Okay, so there are some benefits. Deanna, we've got a new face here. We just had the exit poll. I don't know if you're aware of the exit poll. Okay, so someone who's going to explain this? Yeah.
They did a poll. It wasn't very accurate.
What makes you say?
We don't know, because the poll is right. It wasn't accurate last time. It's just a poll. We can just wait 10 minutes to know the actual vote.
Okay, but what happened in the exit poll? What was the exit poll saying?
You can see it on the bottom. Conservatives.
You can see the exit poll here: 368 for Conservative, 191 for Labour. Give us your name.
Gio. Hello.
Gio. We've got Johnny, we've got Sundar, we have got Emmett, we've got Kane, we've got Margot, we've got Roisin, we've got Asha, we've got Akbar, we've got Danny, we've got Billy and Deanna, and I'm Mikey. Come in at any time you want, but I don't know if you've got any instant response to the exit poll.
It doesn't look good.
Okay. Yeah.
What I want to know is, why is Priti Patel so annoying with her views?
Why do you find her annoying?
I find her annoying about what she says. I don't know why she's bringing up her being second-generation migrant and being such a vehement Tory. What is that about? I don't understand. Can somebody explain?
How can she?
Bullshit walks.
Okay, money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah, ultimately, with Priti Patel, her big. There's this thing. If you're well off, you're okay. No racist. You don't get that much racism if you're rich. You just don't.
Okay.
Nobody get. They see you. They might be racist. They might well be, but it's all behind your back. Nobody's saying it to your face.
Okay. If you're rich, you don't get racism. Okay.
Nobody cares. I don't care.
Okay.
But no, you make an interesting point, which is that when you've got no money and you've got no stuff, you're going to worry about you and the people you know, which is your immediate family. Yeah. And that's, I think, where lots of people, where there is a lot of racism about. And I wasn't really aware of it for quite a while, and then my name gives it away. So I've had people be very, very nice to me until they hear my name, which is the weirdest thing ever, because I can pass as a complete English person. I essentially am. I've been here my entire life. I went to Ireland 3 times. But the name gives it away. And then my best friend is from Barbados and Grenada, but she's been there a few times, and they've got problems with themselves anyway. So
what are you saying?
Life is very... I don't think people are racist. I think they're just worried about themselves.
Okay.
And their kids.
Okay, Asha.
Tell us a joke.
Where you come from when you say people is not racist? People is a racist. Listen, even if you're not racist or you want to be not racist, every blind person has got racism. I'm not a racist person, but if anybody annoy me, wherever you annoy me, what color you are, I call your color. It's not racist. You in them, but the way you use it, the way you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way you say it.
Okay, so Okay.
Lots of people that here is racist. But you got, everybody's got their blood racist, but you cannot say I'm not racist.
Okay, so you think everyone's a bit racist?
But how you acting with that racist is how you using it.
Okay. Danny?
Well, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep in my conservative bed.
Yeah.
Peacefully. But conservative. Yeah. I'm local. Born and bred. I've not got a racist bone in my body.
Yeah.
Never have been racist. I've got a seat at United Nations. I can sit at any table.
Yeah.
There's one in every family.
Okay, I mean, are you going to give us a final thought?
Final thought. I've got no comment, but good luck.
Good luck to who?
Well, to the Labour support and dreams.
Okay. All right, yeah.
The other thing as well, I get what Ash is saying, yeah? Look, there's racism, probably in half of my family. Like what I said, my old man, he'll say coloured people, but that's his generation and stuff like that. I get that. But then I've got friends, like half of my friends are black and that. And I could go up to him and go, you black cunt, you black boss. See you soon, mate. And I could say, you black boss, you black cunt. And he could come up to me and go, you white boss, you white cunt. But then people will look at us outside and think, what's wrong with them two? Like, why are they like that? But then it's just everyone in a situation, everyone to their own, depends who you know.
Yeah.
And it's like I said earlier, racism is created if you basically want to be fucking racist, like mind my language, but like if you get brought up with racism, it's your choice to choose it or not. Like literally. I don't think, like I said, no racism's in London, there ain't. You create it. If you want to create it, then there's racism there.
Okay. Deanna, have you got something to say, or you just...
I just think that a lot of people are unconscious about their racism because it's inbred, it's systemic.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I was definitely brought up to be racist, and yet my grandmother's from Belgium, my great-grandfather is Italian, we're an immigrant family, but we're white, do you know what I mean? And without a doubt, I was brought up to be racist.
What
There
are the
was a
things that
racist
makes you
attitude.
say that?
Okay, so when I got a bunny rabbit, I really wanted a bunny rabbit, and I got a black bunny rabbit, and my sister had the honey-coloured bunny rabbit. But I was given two choices to name my rabbit, and one of those choices was Sambo. Right now, that you can't even I shouldn't even be saying that word out loud, but that is my experience.
Yeah.
So, like, we had a houseboy when we lived in the Middle East, so I was fortunate enough to move to London. I feel I was really lucky. Like, my brother is in his 40s, and he just recently said to me, Diana, I think my wife's been right all along. I am a bit racist. I've just realised that we were brought up to be racist. I'm like, mate, welcome to the club, but like, you're
So you
like,
think
I was
actually-
18 and he's like in his 40s.
But the other
and he's
side of it
realised that.
is living in London kind of helps that racism to diminish in a way because you
think-
mix with so many different people.
I think you are given a much broader spectrum and a much broader experience to mix with people of every kind of ethnicity, diversity.
Yeah. Let me just come to Margot because she's had her hand up for a while.
I think when I was
I'll come
growing
to you
up
in a
in
second.
Poland, I didn't class myself racist, and I didn't understand what white privilege was. I just had no idea. You don't talk about that in Poland. Yes, we did have, Poland as a country had a Commonwealth, but race never played into it. Maybe ethnicity to some degree, but not really colour. And when I came here, I just took everything as it was. Like, Britain is a diverse country. There are people of all colour here. And actually, on the way here, I sat on a tube. And it was like just the best thing, something that I really miss when I go to Poland. It's like you had a Vietnamese looking guy, then you had a black woman, then you had an Asian family, and then you had two white people who are speaking posh, whatever. You know, it's like, and everybody's here. And I kind of like, my impression of Britain was that this country is like this. And then after a while, I was like, oh no, you're privileged. I was like, am I? And you know, and I think it's a complicated thing. But yeah.
Okay. Let me go to. I'll come to you in a second, Ashley.
Oh no! I was just I was gonna start saying, like, when you start to, she was saying, when you start to see it and all that, and you've been here a while, you start to see the background, and you start seeing like everyone can look here and go, yeah, we're multicultural. We very are, like, we are so multicultural, but no one sees the background. No one sees all the shit that goes on with the racism here, and
So we see the nice picture, but we don't necessarily see what's behind it. I'm going to come to Gio, and then I'm going to.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, going back to Priti Patel. It's like she got kicked out of Uganda, I think. And it's like she wants to just get her revenge and kick out.
Did she get kicked out of Uganda?
Well, I think people had to leave Uganda.
Right.
Something like that.
Was that her?
So,
or was it?
Or maybe her or parents or something.
Right.
Family had to move. And she's kind of doing the same thing. She just.
Okay, so she thinks she's still got beef about the whole Uganda thing that happened, yeah?
There was something I was reading that Uganda was offered, it was the Jewish state in about 1903, but it was declined, instead of Israel.
Okay, so Uganda was offered to host the state of Israel.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to come to Johnny, and then I'll come to you in a second.
Just briefly, I think that without dwelling on it too much with the Brexit experience, but the big thing that really didn't get talked about enough was our imperial past, the British Empire, and you mentioned Uganda, and it's so true that these things kind of pop up and then they disappear again, but it never really becomes a key part of the discussion. And it was amazing in a terrible way, astounding, when you think back to what the UKIP promotional videos looked like around the Brexit, around the referendum time, that such a thing could be produced with no... It's a slightly clumsy analogy, but you imagine the process that Germany went through post-1945. We never had an equivalent process in this country.
A sort of reflection on...
And it's not to suggest they necessarily did it completely correctly, but a process was undertaken, and the situation in the country is very different because of it. And I think part of the problem we have with racism in this country is that we've just never had an equivalent process, and that there's just no general, I include myself in this, there's no full or comprehensive understanding of what the imperial past actually looks like in this country. Right. There you go, that's my point.
Okay, let me come to Asha.
It's racism existed. Some people, they're so racist, but I see a lot of the people now, they're playing racist card.
They're playing the race card?
Yeah. Thinking people racism and this, but when people really go through racist things and they suffer for that, and some people just playing that racist card saying, oh, you racist to me, or you this to me.
Okay, so if it's a way to deal with criticism, to play the race card. Okay. All right. Emmett, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it's funny when I meet a racist. And they always hide it. They don't claim to be racist. They always talk about it. So, there's a long time they talk about Muslims. Oh, the problem is Muslims. They're not fitting in with a sort of a Judeo-Christian way of thinking. And Jews were never considered part of the group until Muslims came along. And all of a sudden, Jews, they were like, well... And actually, I think they're all Abrahamic faiths. There's not a big difference between them. They share so much of the same history, baggage, ideology, everything. But the thing is, when they start talking about immigrants, and I say, I'm an immigrant, and they don't want to hear it, it just doesn't fit into their thing, because they've stuck me in a different box.
Okay, so it's like dissonance.
I came here when I was 13,
From where?
From Ireland.
Right.
But, Ireland's one of the few non-Commonwealth countries where we can actually vote in general elections and stuff. Here we can vote in the referendum, vote in all these things, because there's three of my grandparents were born in the UK, because the UK used to try and claim ownership of Ireland as well.
Right, okay.
But it doesn't mean I can't work in a National Audit Office or something, because you have to have parents born in the UK for that. Whereas, but it's just funny how people... There's never logic to racism. It's all about emotion.
Okay.
And if the Tory victory is as big as it is, it's all about emotion. Because I've tried discussing, the problem is everyone's in their own bubble, isn't it, on Facebook and things. I don't meet many Tories. So finally, there was one of my friends, I'd never pat him down for it, and I started trying to use emotional arguments with him. But the problem is, when someone's been that immersed in the newspapers and the TV and the radio and everything, constantly just filling them with all this emotional stuff, they're not really using reason at all. So how do you get them to change that? They need to have like a life-changing moment in their own life, I think.
Okay. So this is emotional thing. Now, Kane, you want to say something? has it gone now? Akbar?
As far as the racism thing goes, there's racism isn't very cut and dried.
Yeah, you think it's a bit more slippery?
We were discussing this earlier, and essentially I've met quite a few racist people over the years.
Yeah.
And they are quite openly racist. However, they don't seem to mind certain races, and not just certain races, but certain groups, ethnic groups, perhaps. So I've met an awful lot of people that don't like black people, don't like Muslims, don't like Jews, but they're all right with Indians.
Mate,
That's all right.
Yeah.
Like, so much, yeah. Like, I get that. I understand that, yeah. I get that. And you can look at that and appreciate that. But, mate, like, I'm not being funny. Like, you look at me and you think last person to say it. But there's just no exception this day and age for racism. There ain't.
Yeah.
And look, I get what you're saying. Like, you get some nice people, they're only... but it just... You can't. Like, this day and age, like, you can't, like...
All right, well, what about this question that Emmett brought up about emotion, and it's all about emotion. And I'm going to come to you in a second. No, let me just go to Sundar.
Yeah, so he asked, like, how do you get people to use reason instead of emotion? And I was actually talking to a Tory friend of mine at uni, and he was talking about how he didn't want to vote Labour because his family would be taxed a lot more.
Yeah.
But I managed to persuade him that it was actually fair for him for the family to be taxed more, and I did this by. So he started off with an emotional viewpoint where, oh no, it's unfair that we're going to be paying half our income to tax. We should be entitled to that money. And but I asked him, well, why are you entitled to that money? Does it actually help you get there?
Works over emotion in this case.
Yeah, and it's the Socratic method, really. It's the power of questions to make people
so
think.
ask, rather than challenge someone, ask the question.
Yeah,
Ask them to explain themselves.
Make them expand on their views, and that forces them to actually think about what their views are and why they think it.
Well, so if someone comes to you with that, I'm going to come to you in a second, but let me just get a final thought. Or are you just going out for a cigarette, or are you off?
No, I've got to go. Just to say thanks very much for a very nice evening. It's my first night at the Tommy Flowers. I've had a lovely time, and I'll definitely be back.
Okay. Any final thoughts on the discussion, the results, anything like that?
Only it's a long game. Don't lose too much heart.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good evening.
Okay. All right, where do we go from here? Do we want to talk about the role of emotion versus reason? Yeah?
Well,
no. Let me just come to Mark.
I think it's important to challenge what people think, because I think the problem is the people, if they are within their own circles all the time and they're not being challenged, then that's a problem. I mean, you're not learning anything new if you're not challenged. That's number one. Secondly, about Britain and colonialism, I can't really talk about that, but I will anyway. I think there's an issue there about, you know, Britain's what's it called, accession. No, like when they wanted to join the European Union or League of Nations, accession, right, was vetoed twice by France, and it's because the goal said they just don't know how to play ball together. They just don't get it.
So De Gaulle,
and whether colonial past, whether the colonial past is to blame for that, I don't know, but there is a sense of superiority, I think, about Britain, and I think it's also related to the fact that English language is so popular in America and stuff, and that's what influences culture. And if you go to Eastern Europe, people don't so much learn other languages, but English is the language that everybody learns, and I think whether you like it or not, that shapes our impression of, well, that therefore it's an important language and therefore this culture is important. But I'm just saying it's a dialogue. Britain can learn so much from everyone else. big up euros.
That's the value of the pound against the euro there. Yeah.
Don't that show a little bit that women are still basically in control? Exactly from your comment you just said there.
Why?
As much as blokes don't like to admit it, they never like to admit it. In the long run, women are in control. They really are. You have a baby with a woman, she's in control. Like, don't get me wrong, look, no sexism, nothing like that. There was a point at one point.
But what's that got to do with Britain and its superiority?
Superiority. How did Britain grow? Women didn't have no rights at one point and stuff like that, and they brought up, they able to vote and stuff like that. And I'm not against it or nothing like that, but
so in a way, it's the women coming forward and getting in control gave Britain its superiority.
Mate, no, but that's what made it a bit better, and that's what made it a bit more good, and that's what I thought half I got across from what she said. No,
okay.
Did you not get that?
Okay, Deanne.
I just want to bring one thing to your attention, and that is, it's absolutely right that women did have to fight for the right to vote, and like.
But does that make Britain a better country in a way?
Well, I want to finish my point, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is that women did have to fight for the right to vote, and initially when they got the right to vote, it was only women of a certain age and of a certain financial standing that were actually able to vote, and it's another 10 years. Yet, before we celebrate 100 years, and it wasn't about just elite women getting the vote, the women who were the wives of rich men who had the time and the education to be able to write the letters and to put the petitions together. It wasn't until the working classes, and the working classes that includes men as well, and the working class women, 10 years later from the elite women, that they actually got the vote. So maybe it's actually the working classes getting the vote as well as women getting the vote, like, and maybe actually what this is actually about is class war as opposed to sex war, race war. It's all of them, it's all of the underdogs, it's anyone who isn't white, privileged, and from that colonial and imperial background, who comes from that stock, from that blue blood, that's closely related, like fucking Kate Winslet, to the royal family.
Okay. I just want to bring in Gio.
Yeah, I was going to the Britain and who was
it's imperial standing.
The imperial standing and the goal saying kind of, you know, no, you can't join the EU because you don't play ball. But yeah, that's the thing. They never did play ball. They always played, you know, one against the other. You know, they created sort of the conflicts.
Okay, so Britain has always been a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let's. I'm just going to come because this guy hasn't said much. I'll come to you in a second.
I think de Gaulle was pissed off because he got left out of so many major decisions in the Second World War. Churchill just locked him out of so many different things.
So it was like more of a head-to-head?
I think he had a big chip on his shoulder about the British.
Okay, so was it a chip on his shoulder or was it a freet on his shoulder? Anyway.
I think it was a freet, that's number one. But secondly, I think also you hear it in what the Tory party says. They are obsessed with just getting the best financial deal. For them, being in European Union is about a fucking financial deal. It's only a fraction of that. Notionally, it's about people pulling together, people beyond divisions, beyond borders, beyond all that kind of shit. And of course, European Union is fucked in many ways, and it needs a lot of reforms. But every government needs that. But I think as a European shared project, it was important. But for Tories, it's a fucking financial project.
So it's all about the numbers.
And it's not correct. And de Gaulle was right.
Okay, was de Gaulle right about, you know, the British cut? Let me just.
Oh no, I had a different question.
Yeah, go
on. Do people care about trade deals with America and TTIP and the blacked out papers?
The what?
So my biggest concern about the Brexit thing was that we'd have less trade deals with Europe and more with America, and I don't like America's way of doing stuff and their health service. And
what this ushers in terms of America's...
Brexit I actually didn't mind too much in the sense that I didn't think it was going to get really horrible. I was hoping we'd still be a nice nation, hopefully-ish, sort of. But I was concerned about what the deals would be afterwards and if it was to get more trade deals with America.
Okay. All right.
I suspect that is what will happen. TTIP was popular with the EU as well, so it's not Because the thing is, TTIP was written largely by large corporations.
Are we wrong to say that the British are more interested in their money than the other Europeans?
Oh, I don't think they are more interested in their money. I think they're more interested in their ego.
Right.
They believe that they should still be this colonial power, and the British. I think the large majority of the British people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay, maybe
that is the majority of the country. London doesn't actually doesn't form the bulk of opinion. London is largely Labour.
I mean, are we in a bit of a bubble here? Is that what you're saying?
100%. London is a very different. I mean, I don't live in London, and I come into London, and it is a different mindset, and it's quite interesting to immerse yourself in this kind of different.
What is different about London? Where are you from?
I'm from Kent.
What is different about Kent and London? It's not that far away.
Not far from Greenhithe, actually. I suspect that it's just that London has an aggregation of arts and other transport and all of these other things that are run communally. So you've got lots of local government or whatever involvement with people's lives all the time. Outside of London, you can't get a bus if you live in, 10-minute drive from a town. You might wait a day before the next bus. I'm not even exaggerating remotely. I mean, if you go to Culverston, one bus a day goes into Gravesend. One bus. And then on Sundays, nothing. So the thing is, one bus will go into Gravesend. You ain't got a fucking hope of going back.
Okay.
There's no bus going back that way. It's just coming that way, and that's it. You're luckier if you go into Mepham. There's a few areas.
I think we get a picture.
But essentially services are lacking. Towns have been lacking infrastructure investment, have been lacking investment. Thanet has lost, in 4 years, 25% of its GPs.
Right.
25% in a fairly large area with a hell of a lot of poverty. 25% of GPs have just disappeared. Where I am, I suspect the only saving grace we've got is that there's a shit ton of Asians there who don't want to move away, and so they just get a job as a GP where their parents live. And that's it. That's only saving grace. We've only lost 5%.
So what you're saying is outside of London there's this desolate land where things are kind of falling apart. You can't get a bus, you can't get a GP.
There's no investment.
But why are they voting Tory then?
They're voting Tory because, like I said to you before, they are that white, they're the typical white English people that have been brought up to be racist, or they're people that are ignorant and don't look outside the box because they are swayed so heavily by mainstream media. People out in the sticks, outside of London, think Jeremy Corbyn is a communist. I mean, what the fuck? They don't even know what a fucking communist is. They've got no fucking idea what a communist is.
Diana says it's ignorance. Do we agree with her? Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I just think we're just talking about bus routes. So you were saying you maybe a day till next one. Some places 3 days a week you get a bus. So it could be 2 days.
I think we got the point about the buses.
No, but the places where apparently the Tories are getting huge amounts of seats, in the Midlands, in Yorkshire, in the north of England, these are the places that have been left behind. These are the places that Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell had an amazing plan to get them moving again. Because bloody the BBC has been illegally broadcasting for 4.5 years. Sky has been illegally broadcasting for 4.5 years. To some extent, ITV has not as bad. And basically, we've got laws in this country against partisan broadcasting. Now, obviously, I don't remember Germany in the 1930s, but it happened in Rwanda in the 90s. There was a genocide that was got up very quickly through radio stations. That's why we have laws in this country saying that it's different in America with Fox News and stuff. stuff, in this country, the broadcast media have to follow certain rules, and they've completely ignored those rules. They've basically been working as the propaganda arm of the Conservative Party.
Right.
And it just, I've been saying that we should have a judge-led inquiry into it, but I was assuming that Jeremy Corbyn would be in number 10. With Boris Johnson in number 10, that's not going to happen, is it? We're never going to have it. Now, I could imagine there'd probably be at least 100 constituencies around the country where laws have been broken so badly these can be challenged in the courts. I know today there were some polling stations where the Conservatives had big signs up around the polling station people telling people not to vote Labour. That's completely illegal. The laws have been just completely broken all the time. So it could be that it's months before we know what the result of this election is. It could be there's been so much malfeasance. It could be literally months.
Will there be a legal challenge, do you think, from the...
Well, no, there'll be hundreds of legal challenges because there's hundreds of seats. You can only challenge seats. You can't challenge the results as a whole.
Okay.
But I don't know whether people will be allowed to be sworn in or not.
Okay. And what about the point about ignorance that Deanna made? Is it ignorance or is it propaganda? Is it a bit of both? A bit of both, okay, yeah.
I just wanted to say a bit to your point. So do you think that Labour should start playing dirty just to get in there, do whatever means they have available to get those voters, just like Tories did and are, and then when they're in power, just, we were joking, we're not actually like that. Here's Jeremy Corbyn after all.
Yeah.
And there's some free food under Jeremy Corbyn, under Boris Johnson.
Grab this food.
There's no such thing as free food.
Grab this food while you can, guys, because I feel like it could be the last little morsels we're going to get. Yeah.
I want to know, did Boris promise like bus services in Kent and in, near New Lincoln? I don't know.
Did Boris say anything about improving the infrastructure of...
No, they're not going to do fuck all. But then people are stupid. Most people are just a bit thick. They'll believe that, they're kind of clinging on to hope. And they know that the Tories are going to, the Labour Party are going to take all their money away from them, what little they have. There are genuinely... There are people out there that have got fucking not one penny and will vote Conservative. Because they think that their £8,000 a year, whatever they've got, is going to be taxed at 50%. It's not going to be taxed at all. Okay? And because people don't really understand taxation. When Corbyn or whoever, the Labour Party, say we're going to tax the very richest people at this rate over and above £100 million or whatever it is, they just assume that's going to be everybody. They just don't understand.
It's another vote for ignorance.
But I mean, it's really similar. You have exactly the same thing in the United States, and there's this very sort of Thatcherite, very sort of Reaganite argument that, if you make money, it's all about succeeding. It's the sort of Hobbesian argument that you succeed at the expense of everyone else. And it's all about you, and you hold on to what you've got. So I get that. I think that for a lot of people, they think that way, and it's really difficult to break that cycle. I think there's also the other side of it, which comes back to this thing around the sort of emotional narrative and whether you vote or you think emotionally. I think the Conservatives, the messaging around get Brexit done has been really effective, because it does put on this general overwhelming sense that it's all very tiring and we want some sort of conclusion to it. And it's a very simple story. It's the same simple story that was played with the Leave vote. It's really easy to be like, we should leave. Whereas the alternative, we should stay, but we should try and get concessions. It's not perfect, but it is what it is. It's a sort of it's a more subtle, nuanced argument, which is really, really, really difficult to get across and play out.
Good luck. I'm going on, guys.
How you feeling about it all?
What?
The election?
Just what I want to go bed. deal with it tomorrow morning. What happened? Yeah. See you night.
All right. Good night. Thanks for coming and getting involved.
Can I just say something? Yeah, I mean, I thought that bollocks to Brexit was quite good, but that sort of died away, didn't it? You know, the Liberal Democrat one. Yeah, I thought that was good.
Well, that was the Liberal Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, now that Danny's gone, who was the only Tory supporter, it's mostly like.
I can start.
Yeah, but I feel like the mood has gone down a little bit here. So
it was good to have that, though. I think it was good to have that sort of tension.
This is my exact problem, because I don't know anyone that votes Tory. I know one person, and the guy I met today.
Yeah.
That's it. So you're saying people are ignorant? I wouldn't assume people are ignorant for voting Tory, but I'd assume they weren't as collective. They don't want to nationalise as much stuff.
Okay, let's hang on.
UDI for London.
Hang on.
What I find annoying is like people who are voting Labour, or they can't vote but they would vote Labour, they still get messages, guys, vote Labour. And it's like, yeah, we got this point, don't worry. It's, you know, I was put on the chain today from my European friend whom you may know, Mikey. Begins with Jolty, ends with Baltog, or whatever his surname is, Balog.
Yeah.
It's like, hey guys, vote for Labour. It's like, mate, I can't vote. Number one, important to say. Secondly, I don't need your fucking message. There are other people who need to hear about, you know.
Okay, so, I mean, are we...
It's like we're in an echo chamber.
Are we in an echo chamber? I mean...
You need to speak to those people. If you want to change someone's mind, you have to find out why they think that way, what they're concerned about, address their concerns.
Okay.
The issue is social media exaggerates this. You only speak to the people that have the same opinion as you. You only come into contact with.
It's actually changed. It's taken away. Yeah, it's taken away the one green seat.
No. It's just no.
No, these are just pluses.
No, hang on.
They didn't gain one or lose one.
No, look.
They're the same. Yeah. So
hang on. Get your head out of the way, Kane.
Yeah, okay.
Look, the green light is still.
Yeah, they still only got the one. That's Brighton, isn't it? I think having a dialogue with people with different opinions is incredibly important. But the thing is, this whole notion, this competitive nature, is social media encourages it. You know, how many likes you get or whatever, the views you get. It's a very acquisitional kind of thing. You know, if you want to acquire more stuff, you want to acquire more likes, you want to have that nice holiday and whatever it is. You've got to have stuff and you've got to show it off. It's if you want people to think in a more socialist way, you've got to kind of get rid of that. And I'm just not. I don't think it can happen.
Okay, so we're just kind of stuck
until we get to a point where we have more resources than we can use.
Okay.
Then we're never going to get to that stage.
Okay.
I did want to just one quick thing though.
Come back in a second.
Benedict Cumberbatch, I haven't forgiven him for Khan.
What do you mean for Khan?
He played Khan in no. Khan Noonien Singh. He was a Mexican, but he was meant to be Indian.
Okay. And then come to.
I think to want socialism, you have to see it work or see people suffer, which is a really shitty thing to say. But in London, you see homelessness and you see many other things, and you see problems with the National Health Service, and you see people. And I don't know if you see that in the rest of the world in the same way.
You can't get a bus out of your own little village.
Yeah, if you're in your car your whole time, you're not going to see anything. You're not going to converse with other people. All you're going to be is worried about what you have, because the rest of the world is a lot further away.
Okay, about Gary.
Just following on from your Benedict Cumberbatch comments, what really annoys me about him is he always wants to be perceived to be being an absolute genius, like a flawed genius, you know, like Alan Turing or Sherlock Holmes. He's never played anybody stupid, has he? You know, but the that would be. Oh, I didn't see that. There you go. But the best description I ever heard of him was is looking like a slightly disappointed otter.
Right. Okay.
Don't you think? It just looks like one.
Well, you know what? I don't do celebrities, so I don't really. I've got no. I'm just like Jeremy Corbyn. I'm neutral on that. What's that?
No, let's not.
We can bring up a picture. Yeah.
Has anyone noticed how all like famous all the big famous actors and actresses now that they're pumping out of London are all upper class. They've all fucking been to private school, all fucking been to university.
Okay, so they.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's like even the actors and actresses, it's been taken over by the media. Upper class have taken over film, media, like film, definitely.
Okay.
Look at them all coming out.
And the media was taken over by the Tories because already in 2010 they started slowly placing all the kind of people in the management positions of the BBC and the TV channels. That was the whole thing going on.
Okay, so we got the paedophile thing coming up. We're on the cliff edge there with that.
Yeah, I just think we seem to be running out of steam a little bit right now. And this was earlier on the conversation about charisma, and it never came to me in that time.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, we keep on getting told Johnson's got charisma, Johnson's a campaign, Johnson's this. It's all pretense on TV. Now, if you think of someone like Tony Blair or David Cameron, they were really good at managing these things. They could work a crowd, they could do TV, they could do that stuff. Johnson can't do any of that at all. It's completely controlled by other people. He is just there waffling. He can't even finish a sentence. Whereas if you look at Jeremy Corbyn, he can have 250,000 people at Glastonbury all worshipping him. Is that not charisma? Is that not charisma? But the thing is, it's all controlled by how it's presented on TV. Every time there's a football match or a rugby match or any large group of people, they all start singing, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn," and they always fuzz it out on the TV so you don't get to hear it. So this whole thing that Jeremy Corbyn doesn't have charisma is completely created by the TV and the radio. It's the most nonsensical thing. Because I see I'm in my social media bubble, I see the things from the people who are actually in the place, and I hear them all singing it. But when they broadcast it, they make sure you can't hear it.
How do they kill Jeremy Corbyn's charisma? How do the media do that?
No, because how they frame it and what they choose to show. It's 99% what they choose to show, but it's also how they frame it. But one of the things is that there's a reason why they started to blur things out. Originally, it was so that you wouldn't hear the racist chanting in football matches. Yeah. And so the thing is, someone said this about when with the social media channels of all the right wingers got closed down. Who's the American guy who's on the really nasty guy who do all these conspiracy theories and stuff? And no, much more internet only. Yeah, that. And then when all the channels got closed down, and they're saying this is, they start off with the ones that you agree with. Oh, of course he's taken off there. That's really good. But then that sets a precedent. Now in America, normally there's this thing, the First Amendment, free speech, and it's absolute. It's not. That's why when people, this stupid guy, English guy, sued Elon Musk for libel in America. No one's ever won a libel trial in America. Americans always sue people in Britain, because Britain's the one with the really strong libel laws. Because it's ridiculous. This guy's worth $100 billion. He accused the guy of being a paedophile, and he got away with nothing. The guy will have to pay the bloody things and everything. No, what I'm talking about charisma. What I'm talking about is, why do we allow these Nazis who control our TV channels, the ones who are telling us that George Soros is responsible for all the world's problems, the ones who are pushing anti-Semitism, the ones who we're allowing them to tell us what counts as charismatic. We're allowing them to tell us what is a leader. So I think it's quite simple. Look at Chile. There's about 100 countries at the moment that are right on the verge of the tipping point for revolution. Karl Marx said you can't have a world revolution without having a revolution in England. Well, let's start it today, before they finish the can.
Okay. So,
important to say.
Yeah.
I've just bought you a pint just to say thanks for doing Talkaoke at the Tommy Flowers and, coming here so much. Yeah. We really appreciate it. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're trying to get out. We're just about to start a revolution, so in the future, maybe all pints will be free as they were in the communist Eastern Europe.
I think on the same tip as Emmett, I was thinking, what is it going to be another 5 years now of demonstrations which get bigger and bigger and angrier and angrier and who knows what.
Okay. Is it going to lead anywhere? Is it going to lead to revolution that Emmett so desires?
That I don't know.
Okay.
We
we haven't mentioned the climate emergency, and I think that's going to be a big catalyst for how people reprioritize their lives. And we haven't talked about it, but I think that's just going to be a pure survival instinct that's going to kick in
really going to go
soon.
And then.
And politics won't be so important. This is, by the way, said for my new show in the future, People in High Vis.
Okay.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
Didn't Karl Marx plan to write like 6 books, and this was just the first, and he just died?
You're asking the wrong person.
Oh, he probably knows. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll ask him
but you know, we don't really know what he thinks.
Yeah.
Well, you used to live in Soho. You know about that, don't you? Karl Marx lived in Soho. Yeah. And he's quite often found absolutely pissed out of his mind, lying in the gutter.
Yeah.
So funny.
I mean, I'm not the person normally supposed to give out my opinions and facts and whatever. But in this case, I will, just because, as Margot knows, I've been planning a kind of Karl Marx sitcom with Marx and Engels, and Marx is like a total loser, and he's always been propped up by Engels, who just thinks he's a god. But he's the one that's always bailing him out, and he's the one with the money. But I'm just saying that just in case, you thought it maybe come from that suggestion. But actually, I've been planning this for at least 3 weeks. So, the idea is already there.
I understand that Engels had a lot of textile factories in Manchester. That's how he made his money. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I mean, I have to say, my job being neutral in the middle can be quite frustrating, especially on a night like this, when I might have something to say about what's going on here tonight and what people have been saying. But then to do that, I need to invite somebody else into the middle here.
I think it should be Margot.
Margot, are you gonna have a go in the middle just for a few minutes? Just for minutes. Okay, all right. Okay, so Margot is going to jump in the middle. Let's give Margot all of our attention. Give her a big round of applause. Thank you. I'm going to go for a pee though before I have my round.
No, we're going to get everything. This is going for a pee.
Oh, yeah.
So welcome to Talkaoke Part 2. This is where it really starts. With a sitcom about Karl Marx, it could be anything really.
You don't get a vote. You don't get a vote anyway, Margot. So you might as well sit in the middle and not say any of your opinions because they don't really count anyway.
No, precisely. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for creating it for me. I'm immensely grateful. Thank you very much. Thank you to Great Britain. Okay, we don't have to talk about elections. We don't have to talk about the politics at all. We can talk about anything we want. We can even talk about the weather. But before we do, here's Nigel Farage. I think that's his name. Farage. Anyway, fartage.
Yeah, I just was wondering, we had a conversation earlier about TTIP, which again, I didn't really get in on that one. But people were talking about sovereignty. The thing is, under TTIP, which the European Union was really keen on it, all the powers that be were really keen on it, and the people wouldn't let them. But under TTIP, basically any corporation can basically sue any government that signed up to TTIP in this court, whichever court it is, and basically say that the laws that they've made are a restraint on trade and anti-competitive. So it basically means that we have no more democracy. That it's basically, if Amazon or Facebook or Google or Walmart or whoever basically thinks that this law means that they don't, it's a bit like, with Trump was talking about the NHS and stuff, and why is it that everyone else in the world gets their medications at a price that means that they can still live, and in America they can't, and they all go bankrupt and then they die. And that should be the same everywhere. And under TTIP, that will be the case here. And not just medications, every single aspect of our lives. That's the end of democracy, the end of sovereignty. So rather than waiting until we're all ground under the iron heel, I'd rather have a revolution now while we still have enough energy to do it with.
So is democracy just evolving, or is it completely lost its meaning and is just not important? That's what I'm wondering. But Agbo's got a point.
I think that all of these big corporations have learnt from the East India Company. They don't want to be taken over by government. they will take over government. And they've learnt, and this is how evolution happens in a way.
On behalf of the Eastern Europeans around the table, they may not be visible, but they may be there. What do you mean by East India Company? Thank you, Mikey. I know you're there. You want to make many points.
So it used to be a private company essentially, but then and they would trade all over the world, essentially using their own private military influence to buy stuff essentially and steal stuff. Then the government felt that it was a little bit too strong and then decided to take it over as an entity, and it became part of the British Empire. That is what it was, and the TTIP and to a lesser degree the Trans-Pacific Partnership give corporations, companies power beyond single individual borders.
But isn't that what we all want anyway? Doesn't everybody in this country or indeed in the world wants to have money and some kind of influence? So this is just an emanation of that. I don't know what people think. I thought you were a new person around the table, but you're not. You just put some more clothes on. How funny! But we do have another new table on the face. Hello, I'm Margot. What's your name?
Marcia, nice to meet you, Margaret.
Marcia, nice to meet you too. I really love your get-up. I really love the British hat. Is it deliberate?
The British hat was initially Colombian. Women were in the mountains, and then the British saw it, and so it was fabulous to actually not have your hat moving while there is wind. So they copied the model. We are all interconnected.
Thank you for this interesting fact. I had no idea, and now I do. So anyway, shall we just get a quick round of names? Why not? Start with this man.
Akbal.
No one. No one.
Emmett. Me.
Gio.
Diana.
Mikey.
Marcia.
Billy and Rasheen and this guy. Sorry, I forgot your name. The Jewish guy. Yes, that's right. That's his name. Yeah. Anyway, we could take it anywhere we want. We can talk about the hat.
Well, I mean, this all fits together because everything British comes from somewhere else. That's literally everything, because there was nothing on this fucking island, and we became the experts at. Basically, there's nothing in this room which has not originated from somewhere else in the world. There's literally nothing that comes from Britain. Fish and chips. The chips come from Ireland via America. The bad fish is the Jewish thing, and everything. Yeah, it's fucking disgusting. You don't try it.
No, you speak with the microphone.
As Kane says. But the point is, everything in this country comes from somewhere else. We became the experts at taking things, appropriating things.
So is appropriation such a bad thing? I mean, essentially trying to translate things into something that's more digestible, something more, I don't know, something that feels more like your own. Is it necessarily a bad thing? I know people who advocate for appropriation. Did you have your hand up, Dan? Did you have your hand up, or was it just an illusion? Did you have your hand up? Okay, you can't respond to your own point.
This is the beautiful thing about London, is that London is exactly that. It's the world in one place. It's all these influences married together, and that's what makes London so beautiful. But it's also what feeds the ignorance of the rest of this fucking country. And they just had an intelligence test, which they grandly failed. Because they are not aware of the history. They're not aware of any of these things.
They don't look beyond their TV and their fucking like little house, their nuclear family, their car, driving to the shop, DIY, decorating. Like, they don't look beyond their little life. And what? They don't see the bigger picture. They don't see the bigger picture. They're thinking really insularly rather than globally.
But why do you think that is? Has education got anything to do with it, or is just people just are born ignorant and they don't give a fuck? Why do you think that is? Because I think there's something in what you're saying, but I'm an optimist, so.
Socially conditioned by adverts, by the way you have to live your life, religion, culture, politics, social media. You know, the way the school system, like secondary school system as well, like that is like the teachers that are in secondary school. They go to primary school, they go infants, junior, secondary school, A levels, university. Then they go back into the system and teach with all of that playground baggage. They've not even had a life. They've not even like lived a life or learned even how to cope in have healthy relationships. So they actually encourage things like bullying. They actually never really sort things out properly because they don't actually. People are really confused. People are really confused, and it's hardly surprising when you look at the TV programs they're watching and the stuff that's being churned out in like mainstream media. No wonder people are confused. I don't know what their arse from their fucking tits, mate.
So is it people wanting to watch that kind of stuff and that influences was being put on TV, or is it someone else dictating what gets put on TV and how to brainwash people? Gio?
Well, it starts already in school. I mean, I don't know what other countries, but they've got this kind of head boy, head girl thing. So already in your peer group, there's this sort of distinction of, you know, who's in charge and who isn't.
But is that a British thing, or do they have it in Italy, or?
Well, they don't have it in Italy. They don't have it in Ireland, as far as I know. I don't know anywhere else. Anybody else? You know?
Do you guys know if there are any head boys, head girls in other countries? Is there anything in Colombia? I'll come back to you in one second. Do you have this thing of head boy and head girl in at school? I'm assuming you're Colombian. You could be British. I have no idea. I was like, I'm confused now. I was like confused. But does that sound like anything to you?
No comments. I was told that if I came here could not sing or punch. Is that correct? Can we do via democracy consensus that I'm allowed to sing if I can?
Sing?
No, absolutely no way.
Consensus? Do we get like in Occupy consensus or not?
No.
No? Okay, so we don't sing. We only pass things via consensus in a real democracy where Britain gets to a point where actually we are able to find a way of decluttering the land and our ideas and preconceived ideas, and look at the wonderful possibility that if we're frustrated by repeating things in the media, as well as repeating things in politics and things that come from previous centuries of our ancestors, I could rhyme this, you know what I mean? You still don't want me to sing?
Hang on.
The beautiful thing is the fact that in democracy we can then really decide. Imagine a small group like us, like this. An island, England. You can clear all the soil. You can regrow forests. We can move the deer in a way that it survives and doesn't get shot. And then is actually able to live a fulfilled life. We can actually look at each other's wonderful complementarity and in context turn politics into something new. I would like to live in a musical. And it's all possible because having reached a crisis, we realize that repeating is not leading us anywhere. The next generation, the current generation of young people are looking at us and saying, how dare you? We sit here and think and talk and we haven't found a way yet with international communication established like this. Are we still looking for identity? Well, we have a local identity. We can grow things here. We can grow a new form of society in which everyone is collaborating beautifully. And then I really like that to be a song, but I have to respect democracy. Whenever people are ready, we move into the direction in which we all feel comfortable with.
Which is a musical, I suppose. But what do you think? I mean, 2 points, which I'm not going to talk about because I'm neutral in the middle. Actually, I'm being quite Swiss here. But if England's such a fucked country and you copy everything from other nationalities, why do people come here and live here? That's question number one. And secondly, what does it take for people to break the cycle, the repetitive thing? But I'm going to come to Emmett. I'll let you consider your points, but I'm going to come to Emmett.
Yeah, there's lots of things get elided all the time, like London and England and Britain and the UK, and they're all different. And because the British were basically like the Welsh. There's the only bit left where they still speak that kind of language and stuff. And they were the people who were here before the Romans arrived. And then the Romans arrived. You think of them as being Italians, but Rome was really multinational. There was Roman emperors who were black for North Africa, and it was much more it was empire, but it wasn't ethnic or racialized in that way. What it was a trading network where you could get wine and all sorts of things, and the Romans came to here. Caesar obviously came. He cut a few reeds and said, "Look, that's all that's there. It's not worth going." Anyway, Claudius then did come, and he didn't really conquer, but people were quite happy to be part of what he had to offer because this great big trading network around Europe seemed so exciting. They wanted to be part of it. So there was no great battles or anything until later on, obviously, with Boadicea and how she and her daughters were mistreated. I think there might have been more than just being raped. Being raped was part of it. But what the Romans did was they built a bridge across the Thames. There was a bit of relatively solid ground in this middle of this huge marsh, and they built a bridge across there. And it probably had Irish navvies doing the actual building work, but
It's probably Polish builders.
traditionally in Britain, the Irish people make the roads. The navvies make canals and aqueducts and stuff.
Poles do everything cheaper. Anyway, that's what I heard. Don't know.
The Poles do skilled work, they don't do the hard labour. Poles, if you want a plumber, get a Polish guy. Anyway, they built this bridge, and the bridge, that basically decided where London is.
We're just gonna have to get the final thoughts from Diane, so pause that.
For someone who doesn't speak because they're in the middle, you do chip in a lot.
Yeah, I do, but there's an emergency. We've got Diane leaving. Why are you leaving? Okay. Thank you, Diane. Listen, what are your final thoughts?
Okay, so, oh God, he might be able to quote Shakespeare, but he's so unintelligent. I don't think he's got anything charming about him, Boris Johnson. I think that what I'd really love to see more than anything else in the world is every other left-wing party and every other party, I would like them to align together. And Emmett, you're being rude. No, come on, listen to me. I'd like them to all unite just to get Boris out. Every single one, if that is necessary. All the independents, SNP, Lib Dems, the whole lot. And then, do you know what? That's a proper democracy. That's the beginning of a proper democracy. That's all different views coming together around the table.
Amen.
In the country. And actually, you know what? I actually really love England. I love it so much. I love this country so fucking much. There's lots of great things about this country. There really is lots of amazing things about it. We've got so much heart. That's why we've got an NHS system. That's why we've got a benefit system. Because we actually, at the core of the English heart, we really, really, really do care about other people. It's just that some people have just gone a little bit self-centered and a little bit thinking about themselves, and they're not really living in communities. They're living in their little semi-detached house with a big garden. They don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like out in the sticks to live in a community. And London is like the best community ever. I love it. And yeah, thank you so much for
Big up
loving
London.
me. Yeah, I do.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you. You can say something. Thank you. Just a round of applause. And good luck to us all. Have a safe journey home. In the meantime, we've got this young man here. What's your name?
Gary.
Gary, what were you going to say?
Just talking about the coalition, it could have a very interesting name. It could be called Lib Lab Snip Plaid Green. So it sounds a bit like a fabric, doesn't it?
Sounds beautiful. Anyone would like to make some point about what? Yeah, Gio?
Shorten that to just like the fuck Boris.
An acronym, Michael.
Well, I want to just build on Marcia's point that it's Marcia's, yeah. I think better than trying to fight in a way, you've got to build something that's better, that works better for people. That in the end is always going to win over just trying to, like, you can't, you know, this election was won, as been said earlier on emotion, yeah. Well, I think we can.
They could have made it up.
Anyway, well, whatever. I'm gonna just assume that, assuming that it was won. This election was not won on any fact or reason. It was won on just emotional triggers, emotional resonance.
And Gary, would you like to read out the quote quickly?
Okay, just to remind everybody, this election was called by the Labour Party and some Kool-Aid guys. I think the Kool-Aid is it's a reference to that mass suicides in British Guiana. You know, Jim Jones?
I don't know anything
Yeah,
about
well, he mixed up Kool-Aid and gave it to everybody. Hundreds of people died because they were just believed in something. They just believed in something that wasn't true, and they were being kind of completely conned by it all.
Okay.
So it was a religious cult in British Guiana, yeah. Jamestown, yeah.
Agbal.
How long do you think Corbyn is for the leadership? I asked that for Tanya. She was just asking me. Do people think he's about to step down?
Do people think that Jeremy Corbyn is about to step down? Shall we just get around the table? Gary, do you think that Corbyn is going to step down if they're unsuccessful?
Well, we don't know yet, so shall we really talk about that? I'm not sure, it's kind of too early. But assuming, okay, who would take over? Keir Starmer, what do you think?
No! Okay, do you think that Corbyn's going to step down after this election?
It depends if Labour loses the...
If they do.
If they do, I think he'd do it, but he'd do it in time, not immediately.
Okay. What do you think? Is Corbyn's going to step down at the end of this election? No. Why not?
He's too stubborn, I think.
Okay. So he's going to stick around, even though Ed Miliband, I think he stepped down pretty much immediately. But okay, cool.
Were these election exit polls, which we have to remember, when it comes to an actual counting in a seat, someone has been there watching them counting those votes. And so far they said we'll have results in 45 minutes. It's been an hour and 12 minutes. We haven't had any results. So it could be that these exit polls are meaningless. They could just be made up because the exit polls fit completely with what the story has been in the newspapers. And it seems that opinion polls seem to represent very closely what the coverage is in the newspapers. Actual results of elections might be a different matter entirely. We'll find out when they come in. But were Labour to lose 70 seats, which is what it's claiming, I don't think Jeremy Corbyn would stay leader very long. I think he would probably stay leader until a new leader was formed. I don't think he would do the thing, it seems a stupid thing, of stepping out straight away. Particularly, there's no deputy leader to take over. In the past, there was a deputy leader that you could hand it over to them. There is no deputy leader right now, so he'd have to stay as caretaker leader until a new leader was elected. But to be honest, Keir Starmer is not very popular with 500,000 Labour Party members. Maybe about 20 of them, the ones who work in the media. I think Laura Pidcock would be number one.
Thank you, Emmett. What about you, Roisin? What do you think? Is he going to step down?
I doubt it. I mean, in terms of social media and things of that nature, he's done quite well. And he's brought a lot of people to the party that probably weren't in it before. So if he were to step down very quickly, that would alienate a lot of people that have just joined recently. So I think there'd probably be more of a phase if they were going to be smart about it, I'd guess.
Okay. Agbel?
I think the worst thing he could do is just to stay there. I think it would be terrible for the Labour Party. I think that he needs to be frank, I think the best thing he could do is just to step down now, before any result comes out. Because this is a shit show. 71 seats, fucking hell. I mean, he couldn't have done much worse if he'd just gone around with a fucking, Star of David and fucking putting it on Jews. I think he couldn't have done worse. How could he have done worse? 71 fucking seats. The Conservatives won 50. The SNP have won 20.
I think you're out of time there, Agbal, but thank you for your view. Kane?
I think he'd step down in the next few months if the exit polls are right and there's been such significant damage.
Agbal, you're out of time.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think, if the damage has been in the North and the Midlands, I think he would probably stand down because it just means that there is a southern-northern split in the party.
Thank you, Kane, from the Jewish Chronicle reporter. Marsha? Would Jeremy Corbyn step down? Do you think he should?
I'd rather not answer or have any interest in such things. We are here while people are dying and starving, animals are being exterminated, and we have a chance of coming out with a new. It doesn't look like the 21st century, it's beginning. It looks like the turn of a millennia. It looks like the things that we can do potentially different than everything that has been repeated before. So we cannot thank our ancestors for what they have left us, including the current politics. And then we take it further into a new way. For instance, I want to see the next election, gentlemen, I want to see in the next election that we have at least 50% of women represented in all political positions. Because it's either that for equality now, we are 53% of the population on the planet, or it's 100% women for 10,000 years to kind of change a little bit the culture. However, we are very happy to just improvise, to turn this into a new way of looking at it. We are an island. England is a beautiful place to experiment with new social experiments. We can clean the land. That's the causing resurgence of insects that's going to affect all the countries because we are separated from the sea. We can experiment with diet, with social welfare, to ways of actually looking at mortality rate and quality of life, mental health, drug addiction, homelessness, all those outcomes, and have the census every 2 years. There are things that we can do to transform everything we have ever seen before and have evidence of what works and what doesn't work. It will be no longer opinion. It will be the truth.
Thank you for your answer to whether Jeremy Corbyn should step down or not. But you have hit on so many points which we will be picking up, I'm sure, very shortly. Thank you for this. And just quickly go to Mikey.
I kind of agree with what Marcia's saying, but I think that what it really is saying about Jeremy Corbyn is it's not his fault. It's like that, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Escape to Victory, when the prisoners of war play the Nazis in Paris and they have to try and escape, but the referee is not on the side of the prisoners of war. So the Nazis win the game because the referee, it's not a fair game. And it's pretty much the same with Jeremy Corbyn against Boris Johnson. It's been so unfair. It's been so... 88% of social media ads from the Tories have been... are not factual. It's not been at all fair. And so... I think Jeremy Corbyn would actually want to resign because he's got a kicking completely unfairly. But I don't think he'll be.
If this were true, you have to prefix everything. Were the exit polls any basis?
Were the exit polls true?
No, we'll find out in the morning.
I think Jeremy Corbyn's taken a kicking, which is not his fault. It's not his fault. And he won't be allowed to resign by the Labour Party. They won't let him resign because it's not his fault.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Roisin because you had a point. I'm going to go to Roisin because she had her hand up before. I'm going to go to Roisin because she had her hand up for longer.
Did you not get to answer?
Okay, go on. If you want to make a quick point.
Just that maybe he should actually hang on to see if Brexit gets done, because that's another hurdle that a Tory government would have to kind of get over. That's all.
So the big question is what about Brexit? That seems to be the central question of all of the election campaign and many other things. But Roisin, back to you. You can respond to the Jeremy Corbyn, to what was being said, or to what Marcia said about Britain being a playground of experiment on many levels.
No, I think you made a really good point, and it's this whole discussion has been about how much we like Jeremy Corbyn and how much we like Boris Johnson, and not about the policies of the party or the future we want to have. It's been all about Brexit, whether we're in the EU or not, and not what our laws will be after, not what our policies will be after, what our immigration will be after. All those things mean more to me than how popular some guy is. I want to know who'll be making decisions and who'll be voting on our behalf in the next parliament. That matters more.
But is that related to the guys who are running it, or are the policies separate? Akbal?
I didn't read the Conservative manifesto, but I gather they want to spend a lot of money on stuff. And it's quite a socialist manifesto from what I can figure out. So I'm not sure it's all that bad. I just think, we just need to make the best of what we've got.
So Tories are not as conservative as they were originally thought to be. Yeah, Rasheen?
Like that's.
Sorry.
But that's the nicest thing ever. So from what I understand from very briefly reading also what the Conservatives were in their manifestos, it was a lot more left-wing than I was used to seeing in a Conservative manifesto. And I was like, even there being this much Labour crazy promises that I kind of like, might have changed the scope of what will happen in the future, even if Labour doesn't do so well.
Okay, Kane, what have you got to say about that? And I'll come to you, Gio. Thank you for the prompt, Mikey. I just want to remind you that you're on the outside and you're not in control anymore, but Kane, over to you.
I just wanted to make another film reference because, I feel like the Conservative Party is very much like the T-1000 in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Because, you look a few years ago and there's definite sense that the party was completely splitting apart, that there was a lot of infighting, and what they've done really well and sort of really horribly is managed to sort of find a way of taking someone, Boris Johnson, a leader that they could never have seen as being a leader, and taking a stance in terms of Brexit, where the party was very much fragmented. You have Leave voters, you have Remain voters, you had that whole bloc that went and became independents, and that they've managed to consolidate around a single message and just push themselves further to the right. It's kind of impressive.
How is that relevant to the Terminator, or whatever you said?
Because it's like the Terminator, that you get shot and it just like, you shoot it in the head and it reforms itself and it's stronger and better. And I think the issue is that the Conservative Party have worked out really well that, how to fight for survival in a way that's incredibly, incredibly effective. And slightly terrifying, because you sort of over the last sort of 10-15 years there's been a sense that politics has become more centrist, and that that there is a place for more liberal-minded conservatism, but it's just how it's become, how you've moved and how you've picked up things that you would never, people defending outfaced lies that you would never think that you would have in this country. It's just slightly terrifying.
So maybe it's a good. So Kane's proposing this is a good thing that the Conservatives. There's like several different conversations happening here. I'm just gonna sit here for a moment and just ponder that situation.
Felt like I wasn't talking to anyone.
23 is Robert Anton Wilson time.
The rules of Talkaoke is that people with a microphone speak, and it's not just me speaking. So guys, you had a heated debate here going on. Tell us what you were talking about.
We were talking about the exit polls and whether there are any kind of a basis for reality. Because I got really upset when people were talking as though the exit polls were the result of the election. But there's a very big difference, because there was every single seat, all those votes, there's people from all the different parties looking at them, making sure that their votes definitely counted for that. Remember the hanging chads in Florida? Similar situation, not quite hanging chads, but people want to make sure if there's things in the box. I know before it came with someone had drawn a penis and testicles in one of the things, because it was all within the box, that counted as a vote for that candidate. As long as you've made a definite mark in one box and nothing in any other bit of the paper, that counts as a vote. Now, this exit poll is not like that. It hasn't been overseen the same way. So you're attaching way too much. Now, the BBC is attaching equal amount to it. I don't know whether Sky or Channel 4 or anything else is attaching the same amount of attention to it. They may well have a lot more caveats. Like, this is only an exit poll. It's only an exit poll. It's not any results. They were talking about results in 45 minutes. It's now been 84 minutes. We haven't had any results yet. So there may well be a lot of revisions made to this before the night is out.
So don't count your chickens and all that.
Well, I'm saying it may not even be recounts. There could be a lot of these results could be tested in court because people have broken the law in terms of putting things next to polling stations. It could be there's dozens or hundreds of seats around the country where these are not allowed to be, they're not allowed to swear into Parliament because they're not duly elected.
Yeah, I think you've made your point, and I think you're right in a way that we maybe shouldn't be preempting the results because we don't know what they are, and maybe BBC is a little bit biased there. Marcia, putting on your white coat, which only means one thing, is that you are next to speak. What were you going to say?
Or sing when we reach consensus in that way.
You were first. Would you like to speak first?
Well, okay, well, I was just going to make a point. First of all, there's denial, then there's anger, then there's grief, and then there's acceptance.
And there's Slavoj
There's
Žižek.
the stages of getting the bad news, and I think you're in the denial stage.
And this is what psychotherapists have.
Was it Sunderland? Oh, Newcastle first. Yes.
Sunderland must be very close. It's not
Okay, we're gonna put the sound on. Everybody's watching, but no one's putting the sound on.
I just want to tell you a story. Once I came home and my mother was hearing me talk about politics when I was in my early teens. We live in the dictatorship in Brazil and needed to change everything.
21,568.
And then my mother said, no offense to shit, no offense to flies, no offense to shit, no offense to flies. Does it make a difference to the size of the pile of shit or the number of flies when you sit on top of it, counting it? I got her points and I thought, okay, we have to create the alternative. Here we go.
And I think you're a big advocate of the alternative, and I think you've made a lot of really good points. Are you staying with us? You're gonna. Where do you need to go? Where do you need to go? I'm just interested. I'm interested where she's got to go. There's no shouting at the table. Thank you very much. Where are you going?
I'm going to prepare myself for a cacao ceremony tomorrow at the church, where we all are silent together, or we speak in turns.
Yes.
And we do cacao ceremony and drink together and then work with sound or existence together to actually feel that way. On the 22nd so tomorrow is in a church in Kennington, a cacao ceremony. Everyone is invited for worldwide peace. And on the 22nd of December, in Westminster Cathedral Hall, we're going to be doing a lot of, social things, interesting things for the homeless. Everyone is welcome. 22nd, yeah, at Westminster Cathedral Hall.
If you can,
please let homeless people know if you pass by them, because it would be a wonderful way of actually gathering in celebration.
If you can share something on Twitter, or if you can leave us something here that we can shout about.
Pass to Gio, and then he passes on to you. Would that be okay? I'll pass on to Gio. He's got your contact.
Perfect. Yes, pass it on to Gio.
Yeah, because it's about the voices that are unheard. Here we have the privilege of being able to speak, and so have they. But who are we speaking on the behalf of?
There's a lot of people who died.
So homeless will have their voice.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Despite of this volume going up, we heard you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon, we hope. Yes.
I just want to say to Marcia, there is a reason why we have no singing, because it just then degenerates into karaoke, and there's lots of it actually excludes people, so we have to say that rule. It's done from experience, not from I love singing, but we've done the experiment, and it doesn't work.
The experiment is informed choice. I actually can sing simultaneously to any human being in any of the 7,000 human languages. It's a new way of being together as humans, and it's a new form of democracy of sound.
Not everybody else can.
But I can voice the voice of the voiceless as a rhyme and a song. It was just that I want to exercise democracy. I'm glad, either voting for it in consensus or not, we have exercised democracy. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity in this evening where historically we are all changing.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you very much. Have a safe journey home.
The majority's come down. It was saying 68, now it's saying 50 after one result, the two results.
Okay, so something's happening here. I don't know what's happening here because I was just too engrossed in what was being said. Akbar, what is happening here? Can you give us an update?
I don't know.
Thank you, Akbar.
Can I just say? Oh no, it's come down by 5.
Yeah, but they haven't changed the forecast and the seats. How can it said 68 seats, now it says 50 seats. And yet they haven't changed the number of seats. It did say the forecast was a 68-seat majority.
No, it wasn't. It was 71.
It is 368. It's 326 for a majority, so that's 42. That would give you an 84-seat majority, and yet they're saying forecast at 50 seats. It doesn't add up at all.
It's plus 50 from the... It's a gain, it's a 50-seat gain.
Tom Chapman, Liberal Democrats, 2,151.
Boo.
Susan Elizabeth Dungworth, Labour and Cooperative Party, 16,728. Dawn Finesse, the Green Party, 1,146. Ian Levy, the Conservative Party candidate, 17,000.
In fucking Blythe Valley, that's like the fucking reddest place there is. And they voted for this cunt. I mean, really? What the fuck?
What's the turnout? What's the turnout?
I mean, the question on everybody's lips is, what the fuck? Anybody has any views on this? Rasheen, you... No. Do you know where that is? I don't know where that is. Exactly.
It's near the Scottish borders.
Bless me.
It's a suburb of Newcastle.
So guys, I'm here in the middle, but I think that
Gary can tell us about...
Gary, what is actually happening? Because there's a lot of heated monologues here, but...
This is my home area, all three seats, you see. So Newcastle has always been quite Labour, really. Sunderland, I was thinking, might have gone Conservative because it was a big Brexit vote. Blythe Valley, it's full of sheep farmers and fuckers like that, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Eastern Europeans doing all the farming? Has anyone ever been to Blythe Valley, apart from Gary?
I've been there,
What did you do there?
Just drove straight through.
As fast as you could. Okay, so there you have it. So there you have it. This is Blythe Valley. Welcoming Agbal. He'll be visiting soon, Mikey.
I just want to say this is absolutely total fucking bullshit. And it's just, I think it's an intelligence test for the nation, which us as a nation, we've absolutely, totally failed. And as a nation, we deserve the shit that we're going to be facing in the next 5 years, because it's not going to be nice. But we totally deserve it. We totally deserve the failing economy. We deserve the increased divisions. There's all of the bad problems that we're gonna have much worse. But we totally deserve it because it was there on a plate, and we've bollocksed it. So, well done, UK.
So there you go. Rasheen, do you think it's well done, UK? You morons. You had it given to you on the plate. What are you doing? Sort your lives out? Or is there hope?
I'm not going to go around calling people morons. I think it's probably a bad plan. I don't know.
Kane had his hand first, you know, the Rose Agbal. It's not Gravesend, you know.
I just find it... It just sort of... I find it really amazing how an issue, you know, people... Britain's place in Europe was something that, for a lot of people, the majority of people, was not on anyone's agenda several years ago.
In London.
But I would say that that's true. I don't think it was. I don't think that was the case. Pre the whole referendum vote. So it is Harry Hill, but I think pre the referendum vote, it wasn't particular. You know, it was something that was of interest to a select fringe of the Conservative Party, but I don't think it was really massively on a lot of people's agendas. And this has become an issue that has split the country to the point where it's almost impossible for... There was something really nice about like listening to the radio today, because they couldn't have any coverage on the election, which was amazing. It's like the first time that they didn't talk about Brexit. They didn't talk about... But it's just that you realise how difficult it is for anything else to cut through. I mean, and we talked about climate change, and that's probably the one thing that has managed to, over the summer, Extinction Rebellion cut through it. It's incredible because it's just in London again.
Everywhere.
But
there are going to be kids there.
within the remit of the things that I listen to.
Yeah.
On the point of Extinction Rebellion, I think I'm going to extinct this talkaoke, but the conversations can continue, but without me in the middle. Some of you will be very pleased. So before I go, let's get some final thoughts, but let's continue drinking for as long as Gary tells us. Okay, it's a locking. Great. So give yourselves a round of applause. Give the democracy a round of applause. Give European Union a round of applause. Give Tommy Flowers a round of applause. Give Talkaoke and Mikey a round of applause, and the people speak, and give yourselves a round of applause one more time. Give it to me as well, just a little bit. And listen, what are your final thoughts?
I mean, I think if we, and this is what I appreciate about what Marcia, although she stayed for a short time, had to say, is that we need to move democracy forward, and it's clear that we need to be really tough on the rules. It's like playing a game of football where the referee is completely biased and doesn't enforce the rules. So for a start, we've got to have the facts isolated from the opinions, and the facts have got to be out there for everyone to see, and the value judgments of what people can talk about. But the facts can't really be argued, yet people are coming up with all these false facts. So there needs to be an institution which guarantees the facts and let people argue about how those facts are interpreted. We just really need to upgrade our democracy because we are totally failing here. Our democracy is not really fit for purpose, and I think this result shows it, because you've got a bunch of people, basically turkeys, voting for Christmas, and they're going to get Christmas.
Amen. Kane, what are your final thoughts? Are you with the turkeys? Are you with the Christmas? Question to Kane. We moved on from you now.
I guess it just like taking a wider view. It just shows that there is it's sort of bouncing off what Mikey was saying, that there is a limit to democracy, and these structures that we trust are the way forward and the progressive way forward actually don't. They have a limited lifespan, and I think the rise of populism has shown how these things can be taken and twisted and turned, and that's not even sort of considering the interference of other countries and the rise of social media.
Ooh, right. Okay.
So I have to take it first before I pass it on, because I may decide to pass it on to someone else, but I won't. Akbar, what are your final thoughts? Thank you, Kane.
I don't think you need to be too disappointed. It's it's the same civil servants. They're not going to change the way they do things particularly. So we'll leave the EU. We'll still be run by all their rules and corporations anyway. So that's all fine. And I think my holiday's going to be cheaper. So all right.
Big up community vibes. Rashid, what do you think? What are your final thoughts?
Obviously, I'd have preferred Labour to win, but by the same thing, it was always going to be every party in there a little bit. So I think it's just a case of trying to keep the things that we value most. So things that were topics of discussion the whole time. So NHS, try and keep it, don't privatise it. Railways, maybe make them better, nationalise them if you can. That kind of stuff. There's still many things to be discussed, and we'll carry on the same as before.
Thank you, Roisin. In.
Hi, I think I can give my final thoughts by responding to two things that have been said already. One is that according to Mikey's rules, separating comment from news, the only media source that will be legal under this is the Financial Times. They're really good. They always separate news from comment, because people need to, they rely on that. They're making multi-million-pound investment decisions. They need to know what's happening. So whenever there's strikes going on in a country, whenever there's a revolution going on, the Financial Times is often the only thing that reports it. It's completely ignored by every other media source. The Financial Times has to report it. They'll give their own comment, and often their comment is, you should vote Labour. It has been in most elections because Labour's had the sensible policies. It doesn't mean any of their readers were going to vote Labour, because they're all going to be much better off under a government that basically steals money from the poor and gives it to the rich. And then this other thing you just said a minute ago, which my mind has just gone blank on. You were describing...
Right, we'll come back to you then.
No, you won't come back because you're asking us all to give our final thoughts.
But the conversations will continue.
About the EU and about... Oh, no, this was about everything will carry on as it was before. But that's the worst thing in the world. There were just so many things that were going to be all right if the nation had chosen wisely, as I think probably London will, as pretty much my entire bubble will have done. And it was going to be Julian Assange was going to come back from death's door. It was going to be, there's a million things that would have been all right. That would have been all right. And it looks like, thanks to dunderheads who only pay attention to the BBC, and the BBC, where they should all literally be in jail because they've broken the law every single day for 4.5 years. No, when I say all of them, I only mean the executives, and Laura Koonsberg, and Nick Robinson, and Andrew Neil, and anyone you've ever heard of. Except, what's the Welsh guy? Hugh Edwards. He's alright. But anyway, they should all be in jail. And anyway, revolution.
4.
Time now.
Thank you, Emma. Final thoughts.
It's important to keep in mind, I suppose, that the Conservatives need an outright majority to win, whereas Labour have potential coalition partners that they can work with, whereas the Tories have alienated everyone that could possibly partner with them. So it's a much taller order for the Tories to win than for Labour to win.
So was it all fixed all along? Gio? Gio, transform into Mikey. You don't get to speak twice, because this is the final thoughts. And I'm closing this business. Gary and Wayne, you can speak now. But in order for you to speak, you need to take a seat around a table of chat. Wayne, it's a bit late in the day for you, but you're welcome for your final thoughts. Your first and final thoughts. You pick the most comfortable seat. Gary, your final thoughts, keep it to 45 seconds, yeah? Time starts now.
Okay, I just want to say it's a real shame that Talkaoke is closing down. Can't we just have a break and start it again in 20 minutes?
We'll think about that. Wayne, we can see you. We can see you. I see you. Any thoughts on the election or anything at all?
Yeah, I can give a bit of a first hand. I shouldn't be saying this actually, but I have actually been working at the elections since 4:45 this morning. I've just finished. I've been a poll clerk for a certain area. We finished at 10 o'clock. I've done every aspect of the voting procedure, from postal voting to counting to delivery to issuing ballot papers, and I can see the opportunity for corruption in our democracy because I've done every aspect of it. I've worked out where the flaws were. We had an independent mayor, Mr. Rahman, who got in through corrupt means. If I wanted to, I could really make an effect. If I was actually had a concerted effort, I could fiddle this democracy quite easy, and other people could do it too. And you really have to be aware that when you put your little tick in a little box or your little cross, it's not transparent, because if you turn around and go, well, actually, how did I vote? And if you go to the council and go, how did I vote? Can I check my vote? I go, no, you can't.
Why can't you check your vote? Why can't you go to the government and go, actually, I voted this way, I'd like to make sure I voted that way, and you can't.
What? You can't expect me to be like, oh, thank you, Wayne, and this is the Talkaoke, the end. Why can't you check that?
They don't want you to.
They don't want you to. Okay, we'll carry on talking outside of this context, but I will. I know. I've done Talkaoke before. Everyone just chillax. Gio, welcome back. We are doing the final thoughts. Make it poignant and straight to the point.
I really don't want to think.
Was it worth it? People shouted, Gio.
No. The final thoughts are, it could be a big hangover tomorrow, even though I haven't even had a drink.
Well, let's hope for the best. Like you said, Emmett, it's not the end. This is just a few minutes, hour and a bit into the beginning of exit polls. Things can turn. Anyway. Thank you very much and good night. Not on my duty, Mikey. You can transgress the rules of Talkaoke, but you've invented it, so do what you want, but not on my watch. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. British Talkaoke Association. Branch of Tower Hamlets. Good luck to us all, and
let's have a big round of applause for Margot.